Okay. Okay. So since there is nothing really new for season 13, I prepared something on Excel at least to help some players to be good and perform well on the leaderboards for season 13. I made 10 tips, of course, but you can have much more ideas. Especially, I didn't list the pool locations, etc. But that's something you have to do if you really want to be successful. So I precise for who is this. So for that's for any player who wants to be competitive and get ranks on the leaderboard, but that could be for everyone actually. Just normal gameplay and just optimizing things. Even if you play 5 to 10 hours, of course you're gonna want to optimize things. But even if you play 1 hour, it just depends on your mindset, I guess. Some people just want to play, but some people, even if they play 1 hour, they want to be efficient. So I'm gonna go through each point now. So the first one is don't play or think to push only one class. At the start of the season, you will obviously choose one class. But if I have one advice is keep the gear. Always keep the gear. Because at start, I was pretty sure I was going to push Monk. But as you can see now on stream or during the season, I'm not pushing Monk. I can and I will a bit. But I'm not really pushing Monk. And the best example is the Barb leaderboard. So I didn't expect to push Barb, but as you can see, if we go back on Diablo, yeah, the leaderboard, I'm first, and I didn't expect to play that. So this leads to the second point. What is really important before beginning the season is knowing the meta for each leaderboard, which means 2 players, 3 players, and 4 players, and the gear for each class. So that might take you, I don't know, from 30 minutes to even 2 hours, but that's going to be a lot of time saved after. Um, Basically, I can tell you now, but that's not going to change the next season unless someone is finding a new thing or a new exploit. But normally, 2 players will be with a wizard, the 3 players will be as well with a wizard, and the 4 players as well. So wizard, firebird, meteor will be on everything, 2, 3, and 4 players. Of course, you can play whatever you want, but if you want to perform well, you have to keep that in mind. So, best advice I have is check the leaderboards, check the builds, and don't salvage your gear. Just keep it. If you find an item with a class you don't expect to play with, maybe you will use it at some point during the season. Then the third point is to find teammates. What happened this season compared to the other seasons? I had the chance to play with guys at the very start. We were always playing together, like 10 hours a day plus, and those guys knew what to do. They were good players, and playing in a team in Diablo is something very, very fucking important, and that's even more important than getting paragons, etc. Well, especially at the start of the season, but during the season, and especially to find players willing to push and people you will trust if you want to push the leaderboards. If you play solo, that doesn't matter that much. But even if you play solo, you have to gem up. You have to your gems like 140 plus. And if you want to do that, you won't do it solo. So you will need to find pairs to push with. That leads to the fourth points. Build your friend list. That's something I did from season 4 when I joined back Diablo when I came back to the game. But of course, my friend list is pretty full and full of good players, but what I did is each time I was playing with a guy and I enjoyed playing with him, I was either adding him or he was adding me. And that's the only way if you want to improve in Diablo. Build your friend list. It's always like that in any game, but especially in Diablo. The communities are pretty dead now. Most of the players will easily find them on friend lists, so I think that's pretty important for everyone. Next point, the fifth one, make a monk. I can't stress it out enough. Make a monk. I know Ice was on the leaderboard. As you can see, he's second on Barb, and he's always lacking keys, and I heard so many people over the season during 3 months crying for keys. But you can't cry and complain about keys if you don't play monk, if you don't have a monk. Monk is just the best class by far to farm keys, by far. I mean, even if your main class is wizard, just make a fucking monk. You will be twice faster, and then then just gamble your blood shards on your main class. And what I do especially, and what I mean by make a monk on this point is you're gonna play at some point, and I switch to the Sage gear at around 1,500 paragons, which will be done in 1 or 2 weeks. It's really easy now to get XP with Ratmarans. And the Sage gear, sorry, helps you to get DBs. And Death Breath is a huge deal in this game, especially if you play DPS, to reroll your gear and to get better weapon or items. But yeah, so making a monk, this is not an option for me. It's mandatory. If you want to be efficient, just make a monk. Then, especially if you play DPS, if you only play support, maybe you won't need it. But if you play any DPS class, and you should, just make a DH. I made a DH like 3 weeks into the season. It took me 1 or 2 hours. It's really easy to gear up, and the DH is by far the best class for bounties. You don't rely on in-game procs. It's really fast and easy to gear. So make a DH. That's one of my advice. Then the 7th point is play support classes. By that I mean I played I don't know, hours and hours and days with Marwan, for example, and Marwan only play DPS, and how many times I saw him going back to farm keys or being stuck in menu or waiting for a guy because he couldn't play support Barb or support Necro, which is a big deal for Ratmarans, since you're gonna do a lot of Ratmarans. So what you want, guys, it's not to stay in menu. Being in menu doesn't bring DPS, or doesn't bring XP, sorry. So making a Barb or making a support Necro takes maybe 1 or 2 hours. It's really easy to gear. Make one. It's always better to play and farm XP than staying in menu. So if I have one advice, if you don't want to lack one option, just make them. And as you can see on my profile, what I did this season, I started with a support Barb, but I made all classes, not to be stuck. So I started with a Barb at start. Didn't even make a monk at start, but yeah, I made a Barb. Then I kept the gear during the season, of course, to play DPS Barb, but you don't have to even to do it. If you don't want to push Barb, don't do it, but whatever. Then, since we were playing in team, I asked my teammates to keep the gear. That's how I got the gear for the support Necro, which takes basically 1 hour. If you look at the items, the Oculus, you can get it on any class. Obsidian is the same thing. This has to be from the Necro. It's the passive, but whatever. Most of the Vigilant Belt, I got it from my Barb. This can be from the Barb or Monk or whatever. The Ingeum as well. Those two things from the Monk really easily. So yeah, it's really easy to gear up any support class. So if I have one advice, make them, so you won't be stuck in menu. About the augments, I would say you have 3 steps. The first one is to make augments if you play DPS, of course, but even if you play support, that's gonna help a lot at start because you will be low paragons, so your toughness will be pretty low. So even making augments at start, and it goes really fast with Ratmarans, you should make augments. So the first ones, I would put them 100 plus. Like the first 2 days, you quickly make augments, and you should have at least like 10 augments within 2 days. It's really easy. And we did it on season 12, so that's going to be the same on season 13. Then you can prepare some augments to 120 plus, sorry. And then you keep for your main class, the class you want to push, 130 plus gems. Before making 1% run, etc., just keep augments on 130 plus. But you don't need to do them early in the season. Just wait 2 months so that the runs on 130 plus with the wizard are going to be really easy. And how to make augments really easily, you can either bet 4 or 5 augments upgrades at the end of the rift. And how can you do that is by getting gold, of course. And how to get gold, you just have to farm keys with boon of the order. So I made a guy about I made a key farming build, so you can look into it if you go on Diablo fans. But any class, any class, if you farm keys, but from my point of view, the only way to farm keys is a monk. But yeah, even if you play with a wizard or a GH, just use the boon of the order and avarice, of course. It's really useful, and you won't lack any gold, and that's gonna carry your season. Trust me, especially if you want to make augments for all your classes, like I did actually. And if you can, just for the keep farming build, just get percentage gold on it. You can get it on any PCs. It's really efficient. And yeah, about the solo push, what I said as my last point here is don't. If you know how to push with the class, if you don't need to improve, of course you're getting better if you practice. But if you don't need to, like I don't know, I don't think I need to practice a lot with my monk, for example. I know how to play it, or with my barb. That's why I didn't push, and all the season I kept doing Ratma runs. Of course it's boring, but you don't have the choice. If you want to be competitive at the end and don't lack paragons, that's the way. Don't solo push before the end, the last 15 days when they announce the end of the season. Just do it for the blood shards cap. But just wait the final push. Otherwise, you're gonna waste time pushing solo, waste your keys, and at the end you're gonna lack paragons. If you want the best example of it, it's ice. If you check my playtime compared to some guys who are always pushing solo, like Icebreaker is always pushing solo. But if he was farming Ratma runs and I asked him many times during the season, he was like, no, I'm just chilling or I'm just pushing solo. No, you shouldn't, because you're 3k paragons now and I'm 4k, basically. And that's a huge gap. And that's basically the same with NG as well. NG could have run Ratma runs and get way more paragons, but now he can't compete because he's lacking paragons. So just, yeah, unfortunately, that's the way it is. Like, you have to play and to farm paragons if you want to be competitive at the end. So as a conclusion, I prepared, my conclusion is, of course, having fun. That's gonna be hard if you have to do Ratma runs all the time, but my advice is find guys you enjoy to play with. If you can, like, join TS with them or watch series, whatever, but find something to do while you're playing Diablo. And keep motivated. That's going to be hard. The season is always long. How many times I wanted to quit this season, especially when my teammates stopped because of the botters. But yeah, you will have to find motivations for it. And as a plus, normally I made a guide for every classes, support barbs, then necro, and I made a guide as well for the monk to farm keys. There is something very useful as well on my YouTube channel, the pool locations. Just a precision, you don't need to get pools if you go for Ratma runs, you don't need to go for pools before 2.2k, I would say. 2,200 paragons. Before, it's just a waste of time because your pools are gonna disappear on Ratma runs. Just go for pools if you have the time, or if someone is going AFK, just go for pools, but otherwise, save your bar dishes and use them after. Voilà, ok, bon.